Count Herthegn was married to Isolde, the sister of King Thidrek. They had 3 sons. The oldest was named Herburt, the second Herthegn, and the third Tristram. The champion Wigbald was also with the Count. The Count wished to have him teach his sons to fence, since they were now old enough to learn all kinds of skills and courtesy. Herburt and Herthegn learned well, but Tristram, the youngest, was slow and learned worst of all. One day, when Wigbald was sitting at table with his apprentices, the 2 older brothers were talking between themselves, saying that their brother Tristram was not learning to fence. They said that he should learn another occupation, since he could not understand any of this. And Tristram answered and said that they should test him at fencing with either one of them, and they would find out whether he could do anything or whether it was as they said, that he could not learn anything. And they consented to do as he wished, and Tristram wished to fight immediately. The brothers and their master Wigbald went out, and they took the swords they expected to fence with. Young Tristram said that it would be of no importance to fight with blunted swords. He said he wanted to fight with sharp swords. "And then we will know," he said, "if you or I can do something with our weapons, if our swords cut. We shall not get angry over this, though." His brother Herthegn was going to fight, and he thought it good that they were fighting with sharp swords, because he was already better at fencing. But Master Wigbald wanted to see if they had learned anything while they were learning from him, and he bade them not get angry because they had sharp swords. Herthegn said that he would certainly not get angry, but young Tristram lifted up his sword and went against his brother rather angrily, and he took up his shield. His master went to him and said that he should not take up the shield in this way, and that he had not taught him to pick it up this way, but rather in this fashion, and he told him how. Tristram answered him angrily, and said that he would not learn anything now, if he had not learned anything before, and that there was no use for him to teach him. They now went together and fenced, and it seemed to Herthegn that he could land a blow on his brother any way he wanted to, and he did not defend himself. Young Tristram raised his sword and aimed a blow at his brother Herthegn, but Herthegn raised up his shield before the blow, and when Tristram saw that, he ran his sword under the shield and into the body above the belt, so that the sword ran through him, and Herthegn fell dead to the ground. Tristram threw down his shield and went away with drawn sword to where his horse was. He leapt onto the horse and rode away out of the country to Brandinaborg, to Duke Iron's, and stayed there a long time. He told the Duke all about his trip, and what had happened when he had left his country, and what he had done. The Duke welcomed him warmly, and made him his servant, and gave him into the care of Nordian, his hunter. And he now took care of the Duke's hunting dogs, and rode in the hunt. He pleased the Duke well. Count Herthegn was informed that his son had been killed and that young Tristram had gone away. He called his son Herburt to him and asked where his brother was, and whether it was true what had been told him, that his son Herthegn had been killed and that Tristram had ridden away. Herburt said that it was true. And the Count now said, "I have now lost 2 sons, and you alone are responsible, because you are the oldest, and you should have advised them and prevented them from doing something that would turn out ill. But you have urged them together and advised them to the course that things have taken. It is fitting that you alone pay, and you will never be a respected man again." Herburt thought it bad that his father was angry at him, and he became anxious about this, and he went away and thought it over a short while. Then he got his horse and his weapons and rode away from Ivern. He took the roads that led to Bern to meet King Thidrek, his uncle, and he told him everything that had happened, that his brother had been killed, and that their youngest brother Tristram had done it, and that his old father had blamed him for it, and that was why he had gone away. King Thidrek welcomed his kinsman warmly, and he remained with him in great honor. Herburt became a man of great accomplishments in all things, so that his equal could scarcely be found in any sport or in knightly prowess. King Thidrek did not have a wife at this time, because he had neither seen nor heard of a woman as beautiful as he wanted. He was told about a woman named Hild, the daughter of King Artus of Bertanga. She was said to be the most beautiful of all women. And King Thidrek sent his men out into all the world to find him the most courteous of ladies. And these men came to Bertanga and to King Artus, and were told that his daughter was the most beautiful woman in the world. She was protected so carefully that the messengers could never see her as long as they stayed there. Everyone who had seen her said that no man had seen as beautiful or as fair a woman. And after this, they returned to Bern and told King Thidrek how much they were told about this woman, that she was more courteous and fairer than others might find if they sought through all the world. And they also told him that she was so carefully guarded that no foreigner could see her, nor could any of her countrymen except the closest friends of the king. When the king had heard this news, he began to think much about how he could win this woman. And he called his kinsman Herburt to him and said that he should bring his message to Bertanga and ask for the hand of Hild, the daughter of King Artus. And Herburt said that he would go wherever he wished to send him. And King Thidrek had him prepared for the trip, and gave him 24 knights, and gave them good armor, and good horses, and good clothing. Herburt now rode all the way to Bertanga, where he was well received by King Artus. And when Herburt had been there a short time, he went before the king and told him that King Thidrek of Bern, his uncle, had sent him thence to ask for his daughter Hild on behalf of King Thidrek. And King Artus asked why King Thidrek did not come there himself to ask for his daughter if he wished to gain her. And Herburt answered that there had been other men of King Thidrek's there for some time, and that they had not gotten to see her. And now he sends his nephew, whom he trusts well, to see the woman himself. And the king answered that he would also not be able to see her, because it was not their custom to let foreigners see her except on the one day when she was in the habit of going to church. Herburt remained a long time with King Artus, and the king made him his man, and he was supposed to serve the king at table. When he had been there a while, Herburt was such a courteous knight that the king and his men thought that they had scarcely seen his equal. And when the king had seen how well he served, the king increased his honor and made him his steward. He was put in charge of the mead and of waiting on guests and serving those who required the greatest care. He served him in this office with such skill that no one had ever seen anyone like him before. The king increased his honor even more and made him his personal steward, and he had to serve the king himself. He carried out this task so well that the king himself and all his men thought that no man who had come there was his equal in courtesy and in all the tasks he was to perform, neither foreigner nor countryman. One time, when he had been serving at the king's table and had washed his hands, he did not take a towel, but held his hands up in the sun and dried them in this fashion. Herburt was with the king when an important holiday arrived. There was a great festival in the king's hall, and on the same day, Hild was due to go to church. Herburt went to the road ahead of her and planned to see her. And when Hild went out from her hall, 12 counts went with her, 6 on each side, holding up her gown. And then came 12 monks, 6 on each side, who held up her mantle. And after that came 12 earls with byrnies, helmets, shields and swords, and they were to see that no one would be so bold as to speak with her. Over her head there was a structure like 2 peacocks, and this was held up with all of the framework that went with it to shield her so that the sun could not burn her fair face. Around her head were silken veils, so that no one could see her face, and so she went to the church, sat on her seat, took her book, and sang, and never looked up from it. Herburt now went into the church, so that he came as close to the princess as possible, but he did not see her face, because the men who were supposed to guard her stood in front of her. And these were the men who had come with her, the 12 counts and the 12 monks. The 12 earls who were supposed to defend her with weapons stood before the church. Herburt had taken 2 mice and had one decorated with gold and the other with silver. He turned the mouse that was decorated with gold loose, and the mouse ran toward the stone wall near where the princess was sitting. And when the mouse ran toward her, she looked around quickly to see where the mouse was running, and Herburt was able to see a little of her face. A little while later, he turned the other mouse loose, the one decorated with silver, and this mouse ran the same way as the first one had toward the wall where the princess was. And for the second time the princess looked up from her book to see where the mouse was running. Now she saw a distinguished and courteous man and smiled at him, and he smiled in return. And a short time later, she sent her lady-in-waiting to ask who he was, where he came from, and what he was doing there. He answered, "My name is Herburt. I am a kinsman of King Thidrek of Bern, and he sent me here. I cannot tell you my errand, but if your lady wishes to know it, then I will tell it only to her alone." The girl returned and told the princess everything she had been told, and how this man wished to meet with her. She answered and said that she dared not speak one word with a foreigner while her mother and father were present, and she asked him to wait until they had left and told him to stand behind the church door. The girl went back again and told him what the princess had said. He did as he had been told and waited at the door, as she had said, until the king and queen had left. The princess now went out to the door after the king. She turned behind the door, and Herburt greeted her. She bade him welcome and asked what mission he had with her. And he answered, "That will take a long time to say. I have been in this place a half year, and I have not been able to come near to you, nor to hear you speak. But my mission has to do with you, and I would like it if you can arrange for us to talk for a longer time, so that you can know my errand." She answered and said that she would arrange it. A monk, who was a watchman for her, went between them, pushed him aside, and asked how he could be so bold as a foreigner. "That he speak with you, lady, and he shall pay for it quickly." But Herburt took the monk's beard in his right hand and shook him so hard that the beard came away with the skin. He said that he would teach him not to push foreigners. The princess went away, along with her attendants and ladies in waiting. And Herburt went back to the king's board and served. And the princess was drinking there with her father in the hall, because it was a great feast. Now that Herburt was at least partly successful in his mission, we have to end the 40th part of the Thidrekssaga and return next time with more from the olden days, like a man's escape and a knight that follows his tracks, as well as the marriages of 3 heroes. So thanks for tuning in. And tune in again next time for Daughters, Feuds and Heroes. And be back here at Sagenheim.